Ladies and gentlemen, as always, I'm your host, Grant Ingram, and today we are discussing Howard the Duck. That voiceover was terrible because, well, it doesn't tell you a lot. But welcome to Through the Monocle. If you've been here for the last hour, 53 minutes and 42 seconds, uh, thank you.
I'm sorry.
52 seconds. Um, I'm sorry too. Um, yeah. Welcome. If you haven't been, this is just a normal episode, kind of like we did last week. But for some reason, last week the commentary popped off. So hopefully it does again this week. That's why we did that. All right, Grant. We unfortunately just watched Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
So this movie has a 13% tomato meter, a 38% audience score, and roughly 13 duck puns.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 duck boobies for some reason. Yeah. It also
Yeah.
carries a PG rating.
Somehow.
Somehow. Um,
Look, if that's a PG movie, I don't know what to tell you. That's all I'm going to say.
I mean, it's PG-13.
I would argue that might even be a little, I don't know. Yeah.
Nah, there's nothing. I mean, maybe the duck boobies, maybe. But there's an argument to be made that they're duck boobies and not people boobies like they were in Batman and Robin.
I would not be someone who's making that argument. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, fair enough. Anyway, duck boobies aside, Grant, what did you think of this movie? That's a sentence I never thought I'd say in my life.
It's a movie. That I can say with certainty it is a movie. I would say the audience score is a little more fair than the critic score. Towards the end of the movie, it definitely gets worse and it definitely gets much more Batman or Robin like. However, the first hour at least was like, okay, it's not a great movie, but I can sit through this.
Yeah. I'm with you.
And not for the reasons Grant was attempting to use for as to why Batman and Robin was watchable, which is it's just so bad you can laugh at it. I disagree with that statement. I just think Batman Robin is awful.
It is. It's really bad.
This movie is I would say more watchable, but still like.
I think at the beginning it was more watchable. Like when Howard the Duck was more like Howard the we'll replace that you. It was funny. Like I enjoyed like there's a level of it. I feel a lot like I felt about like Farce of the Penguins. Like there is good stuff in here that is just movie is too much. Like had they stopped when Howard was supposed to go home, if it was a 45-minute TV special, fine, whatever, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think that would have improved both the critic and the audience score. The problem is the back half of the movie is just awful.
Yeah, and that's not to say the first half would even end up with like an 80 or 90 audience score. It wouldn't get there at all, but it would certainly be higher. Because the first half is genuinely like, okay, not the best thing I've ever seen, but it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. I wouldn't even say the second half is the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's definitely not as good as the first half.
It's getting there. That weird abominable monster thing is terrible.
Mm-hmm. Horrendous.
Awful. I do have to say, I think that the 38% audience score is 38% of the movie was watchable. And the other 62% just isn't. Like, movie is not good. It was fun for 45 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
It was still weird as heck. But at least Howard wasn't actively trying to sleep with a woman. He was prepared. He wasn't actively trying.
Are you sure about that?
I mean, he was prepared. We saw his wallet, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It has some bones. I think the movie does better if it's rated R. because like there's some
Mhm.
humor there that you could totally go down and it would be amazing. And I wish that Kevin Smith's Howard the Duck show had gotten made a few years ago. And like Howard the Duck is a more mature character in the comic books, which I know because I read Howard the Duck comics from time to time. Yeah,
Yeah.
dateable here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So, looking at IMDb trivia facts, following a test screening, Universal executives Sid Sheinberg, that's how I'm just gonna go for it. Sheinberg and Frank Price were allegedly arguing about who was to blame for green lighting this film, which led to a fist fight.
and also to scrapping their cards.
Yeah.
Or like negative reviews. The movie is not good. Again, like it was better when he was lost and it was aimless. Once it found its plot point of the Dark Lords of the universe creating a new Emperor Palpatine who becomes a giant slug for some reason, like it lost it, man. Like all of its charm just went away. Also, whatever you're doing, it sounds like some really weird ASMR coming out of your mic.
Okay. Just this. George Lucas spent $2 million on the duck suit.
The duck suit.
$2 million.
Okay, I make fun of the duck suit a lot, mainly because it looks like this. But it works.
It's not as bad. Like when you watch the actual movie, it's not as bad as those couple pictures make it out to be. But I'm not saying it's good.
No, it is as bad as those couple of pictures.
It's very much.
But you can deal with it because that's what the movie gives you. Like if you suspend disbelief to watch the movie, you can go, "Oh, I guess there's a dude in a duck suit." Okay.
Mm-hmm. So Willard, we mentioned in the full version of this about Willard Hyuk. This was his second consecutive failure of a movie. Before this was a movie called Best Defense, which was also a box office flop. Rating off IMDb, I don't know how bad it is. The failure of this film killed off his directing career, as he never made another film after this one. This is the last film this man ever made in his life. And you know what? That is a good thing. because that means there's at least one less abomination that Grant can't make me sit through on recording for 2 hours. And for that,
Willard is out here catching strays. Ouch.
Look, Willard can do a better job at making a movie than I ever could.
I don't know if that's true. I sat through that. I think if you set up a camera and just talked, you'd have a better movie. Willard's bad, but also he's just out here catching strays. He wrote that movie too. He was proud of having written that movie. He probably went home and told his wife and kids, "I cracked it. I wrote Howard the Duck." And then his wife and kids
cracked the egg on this one.
And his wife left him and his kids went away.
She went for milk.
I hope Willard Yuck is doing fine. Oh, his wife died. That's really sad. He was married. Oh, goodness. So Willard Yuck is was actually like fairly well respected as a writer. The movies he wrote, American Graffiti, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and then Howard the Duck. He directed 3 movies, or 4 movies actually. But
this what IMDb was saying is the movie before and then this movie were both box office failures.
He was the script doctor for the first Star Wars movie. And then he wrote some TV stuff. But so this is why he got the job. His wife was the producer, Gloria Katz. She just died a few years ago.
Okay.
They both edited the Star Wars script. They both wrote the movies. They both wrote Temple of Doom. They both wrote Howard the Duck. Yeah, so they were
They
like
had connections.
they were a husband and wife team.
Mm.
Rest in peace, Gloria Katz. Though the movie's terrible, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
rest in peace.
Yeah, cancer sucks. But
Yeah.
also,
I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at what I'm reading on IMDb currently.
which is
In 2011, a screen-worn Howard mask was sold on eBay for $1,500. A few weeks later, an original worn-out animatronic prop of Howard was also offered, but nobody had any interest. That's what I'm laughing at. Just
nobody cared.
why in the world did my StreamYard just go off of dark mode?
I know StreamYard has
Whatever.
dark mode. I use it as my lighting, which is why my lighting sucks. But anyway, this movie
I'm curious.
is
Hold
bad.
on.
It is bad because it went from being good.
Yeah, I can see how they use that as your lighting with how this looks.
Yeah.
That
Anyway,
take a second.
it went from decent, okay, to really bad, really fast. It's not as horrendous as Batman and Robin. By the end, it is just as unwatchable. At least in my opinion.
It gets close. It gets very close.
That's what she said.
Yeah. I wouldn't waste my time with this movie. I wouldn't rewatch this movie. I would happily
like
force Grant to watch it again for the podcast.
Grant would force me to do anything at this point. I
specifically requested it.
I think ultimately, and I don't know how long this review is actually going to be, but I think ultimately it's going to come back to the same thing as Batman and Robin. Even though this is, as I've said, a better movie overall, it does get close at the end to being that bad, but overall a better movie. Would I suggest somebody sit down and waste 2 hours of their life watching it? No. I'd rather you waste 2 hours and go watch my boy Russell Westbrook Lakers lowlights. I love my boy Russ, but I could not, in good conscience, tell anyone to go watch this movie.
I could tell you to waste 45 minutes on the first 45 minutes of the novel, just for the novelty of it. But yeah, I'm with you. And I say this as like a diehard Howard the Duck fan. Like, I love Howard the Duck. I want more Howard the Duck comics. I would love to see another Howard the Duck movie. The girl that played Beverly in this is trying to get it done. I'd love to see it. Because the Howard the Duck of the Marvel Comics fame is a much better character. And it would make for a much better movie. The problem is they tried to make this a comic book movie and not a movie about a duck detective living in New York. And for some reason, they set it in freaking Cleveland. It's just not good. It's just not good. As a matter of fact, it's quite bad.
Yeah. So I'm in the factual errors list. The first one is too many errors about nuclear reactors to list.
Oh, there are a lot.
Yeah, just that there were too many. When Beverly is in Howard's wallet, the cash still says Washington, D.C. on it.
Washington Duck Country.
Yeah.
Washington Duck Country.
So this is an absolutely nerdy one, but in the apartment scene with the piano, the specific type of piano that's there shouldn't be able to produce any sort of bass sounds at all.
Nice. I will say that is a nitpick.
Yeah.
I think it's easier to say that the talking duck aspect of this talking duck movie was the problem over the piano making bass noises. Some critics sitting there with his pen and pad. Well, we're going to dock that 1%. It went from 14 to 13% because of the bass noises coming from this piano.
Yeah. That doesn't matter. You're not watching this for any sort of accuracy.
You shouldn't be watching this at all.
That is true. That is very true.
It's so bad. I never believed how bad it was because I'm like, I mean, worst comes to worst, it's a cartoon, right? Like, if it was just cartoony, it'd be fine. Instead,
Yeah.
it's like bad, man.
It is almost as bad as.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
I will say the movie was better when it didn't have a villain. It didn't need a villain. There's no reason for that movie to have a space villain.
No.
Like it was good enough when he was having a hard time getting home. An emotionally resonant story about a fish out of water being a duck out of his home planet, needing to find friends and a beer and come to accept life where he is would have been a much better movie. Especially if that duck is as wisecracking as this one is. You can still have him no crack through. It can still be fun like that. But like that would be a much better movie than what starts out as that and then becomes, well, here comes the Dark Lord of the Universe. We pulled from Duck World, everybody.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm having a hard time to find anything else to say about this movie. I know this recording's only been like 10 minutes for this. I'm just having a hard time of finding
15.
anything else to say.
It's been 15.
Yeah, like
it's a movie's not good enough to talk about, but it's also not bad enough to rant on.
Yeah, so like Batman and Robin last week, y'all heard me.
We heard you.
Y'all heard me. Pretty sure Kim Jong-un heard me. But
yeah, it was just that impersonator Aiden Ross had on that stream.
Yeah. It was like Speed setting off those fireworks in his room.
Or the other thing that he did in his room.
It was explosive. But it's just like you said, this movie is not good enough to sit here and really try to dissect the movie. Like some of the movies we've went in and went a little further and dissected and talked about what's good and what's bad and like, actually talk about the movie.
So the goodness of the movie to me is the first 45 minutes and the sarcasticness of Howard. That's the
I think Howard's fine throughout the movie. I don't think Howard really changes throughout the movie.
He does. He becomes less funny as it goes along. Like they stopped writing his zingers. Like that's how it felt to me, at least.
Yeah, he's fine. He's the best part of the movie. Everything else is awful.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would say Beverly's pretty decent, actually. Like the people, the human part of it. So like Tim Robbins and I want to say, is it Leah Thompson? I believe is her name.
Yeah, I think so. I was looking at IMDb earlier. I think that's her name.
Yeah, they are good in the movie. Like they are what their characters should be. The problem is when they add in the villain. That becomes where the movie sucks.
And I don't know. I didn't really like Phil, if I'm honest.
Oh, I didn't like Phil, but Phil was good at being annoying. Which was Phil's point.
He was annoying.
He was annoying.
Yeah.
What
does one say about this movie?
Don't watch it ever, please, for the love of God. It is. I would say it's adequately rated, except I think the audience score is a little high. Again, 38% of the movie is watchable. The other 62 is the problem.
I say 30 is probably a good number to put it at.
Yeah, give or take. Like it's
maybe a little lower, but
to be honest with you, I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed watching Batman and Robin last week. As much as I hated it and as terrible as it was fun to sit here with you and watch you just melt into your chair because it was so bad. I didn't enjoy this like at all. Like
I'm gonna differ with you on I didn't enjoy Batman and Robin. I think that was clear in the review. If you haven't watched it and you're still here, go watch it because I was mauling. But
if you're here, the reason you're here is probably that they're that.
Yeah. This movie is just like we've said consistently. I'm just gonna say it again because I can't think of anything else to say. It's a better movie, but it still sucks.
It's almost better to the point that it's worse. Like there is nothing to get from this movie.
I think that's fair.
I feel the same way about it. Let me put it this way. I feel the same way about it as I do Batman Forever. It is not good enough to make fun of, or it is not bad enough to make fun of, making it just a miserable viewing experience after like the first 45 minutes. Like there is no joy to be found. There is no take 2 of these and call me in the morning. There's none of that. Like it is just miserable. It is pure misery because it takes itself so seriously in that second half. You can't have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, here's Lego. Yeah. That's how it is. As far as our lists go, did it achieve what it set out to do, Grant, and irritate the masses?
No, and I can tell you it didn't, because as I was looking at the IMDb earlier, there was something about George Lucas had just built like this $50 million ranch.
Yeah.
And he was hoping this movie would, help cover the cost of that. And because this movie flopped, he had to start selling stuff, which is why he sold Pixar to Steve Jobs.
Gosh.
So the whole reason he sold Pixar was because this movie was crap.
Yeah, and we've mentioned that before. I think I even mentioned it during the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely didn't do what it set out to do. I wouldn't say it's rewatchable because I wouldn't recommend watching it the first time. The fun factor just isn't there after 45 minutes.
No, maybe an hour if I want to be a tad bit generous. Like it might make it to an hour.
It does.
Then this last 45, because like I remember during the commentary track, where like I was kind of like, oh, this movie is actually going quicker.
And then it drug. Like it started to die. You said that 28 minutes in, Grant.
Yeah, I think I also said it a little bit later.
Yeah,
I want to say
maybe.
If I didn't say it, I was at least thinking it. Like I want to say that for me at least, the first hour I got through it and it didn't feel bad. The last 45, I think it was, minutes without credits, that was slow.
See, that's how the split flips for me. The first 45 was fine, the last hour was bad. My personal thought on that is just that they got away from what made it kind of fun. At first, it's just kind of a goofy 80s comedy. It would remind me of like Flubber. You've probably never seen Flubber. I don't know that I've ever actually seen Flubber, but it's a Robin Williams comedy about a inventor who invents like this weird rubber human or weird alive rubber thing. Like it's not a good movie, but at least it's entertaining and it knows that it's kind of a joke. And Howard the Duck started out as kind of a joke, and it became a story about a duck fighting demons. Like it lost the fact that it was a joke somewhere in the middle of it, and that made it miserable. And that's it. Yeah. Anyway, went from being an 80s comedy to a very bad movie, like a Netflix comedy. Anyway, I don't really have much else to say. Grant, do you?
No.
Well, if you've enjoyed this, that makes one of us. Thank you. You can do us a favor. You can subscribe. You can leave a comment telling us you enjoy this, because when we saw that the last episode we did gangbusters, I made Grant watch this. You can also support us on Patreon, which is patreon.com/theculturenerd. There's a tier for each of the shows there. You can also just support the network. It really does mean the world to us. I think we just broke even for the year a little bit ago, and some giveaways are starting to come about, actually. If you look into the Cultured Nerd Instagram, they're giving away some Batman-themed stuff. If you look into the Cultured Gamer Instagram, they're giving away a Nintendo Switch. You might want to go check that out. I believe that's just at the Cultured Nerd and at the Cultured Gamer. You can also follow us through the Monocle Podcast. Anyway, as always, I've been your host, Grant Ingram.
And I have unfortunately been your co-host, Grant Skillen, for the past 2 hours, 17 minutes, and 35 seconds. Thank you to each of our Patreon supporters. My brain is no longer working properly, but thank you. Thank you to Jose for the logo and Taylor for the intro, even though he's still not on there for some reason.
And thank you, the viewer, for joining us and suffering through Howard the Duck with us. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment, tell us that you liked it. If you want, suggest a bad movie for next week. We still haven't decided what we're doing with the rest of this, but if this episode does well, I think we're a commentary show now.
Can we
Anyway,
do a good movie? Can we actually be able to be like, oh, wow, that is awesome, and not I want to hang myself?
we could do that, but it's tougher to commentate good movies. We'll figure it out. Anyway, you can scan this QR code here on the left to check out the Cultured Nerds stuff, the nerdiness, and you can scan this QR code on the right to check out our other show, Much Talk About Nothing, which has been dead for a little while, but we've got some stuff we need to drop there. Anyway, we will see you next week when we talk about something. Leave us a suggestion. See you then.